You grow up in the Rust Belt of Atlantic City. Your father worked night shifts at a printing press and fed his paycheck into slot machines, not violent, just absent. Same sofa every night, TV volume maxed out like he was trying to disappear into the noise. Your mother worked a grocery register until her back gave out. You drop out at 17 because algebra doesn't keep the lights on. You get a job as a runner at a cheap casino. You're good with numbers. You can look at a deck and calculate pot odds the way a musician hears a flat note. Nobody cares about that skill, not yet. At 19 you wear a cheap white vest dealing minimum bet blackjack, drunks and retirees with plastic cups of quarters. You learn to shuffle, pitch, and collect. Your hands are water. You learn to watch a man lose half his monthly paycheck without moving a facial muscle. Elias walks into the casino when you're 23. He's 65, wearing a frayed bespoke suit, with a pale scar running from his left earlobe to his collar. He sits at your table, drops a stack of hundreds, plays 3 hands, loses all 3, but he isn't watching the cards, he's watching your hands. He comes back the next week, then the next. The 4th time, he doesn't play, he waits for your shift to end. He sits in a greasy diner across the street, drinks black coffee, and talks to you like you matter. Asks if you ever want to make real money. You haven't. Your dad just left a $20,000 underground debt before dying of cirrhosis. Base pay doesn't cover the interest. You nod. Within a month, you're out of the cheap neon lights. You're in the basement of an abandoned Brooklyn warehouse on weekends. Acoustic foam on the ceiling, crystal chandeliers bolted to rusted steel beams, top-shelf liquor, mahogany tables covered in blood-red felt. First time a room full of powerful people looks like they're waiting for you. You stand at the dealer's tray. That feeling is the drug they're selling. The first year is a test of silence. You are a ghost, no name, no opinions. You don't laugh at the players' jokes unless they look at you and explicitly cue you to laugh. You work 14-hour shifts. You stand until your heels bleed. You realize the underground isn't like the movies. The players aren't thugs in tracksuits. Your players are a senator with slicked hair who goes on TV in the morning talking about family values. A 26-year-old tech CIO wearing a hoodie that costs more than your car, and Vinny. Nobody knows Vinny's last name. Cheap suits but a Patek Philippe watch. He doesn't drink. He's the family's rep, the muscle backing the room. Elias pulls you aside on a Thursday, hands you your cut $3,000, cash rolled up in a rubber band, feeling heavier than it should. People buy you expensive drinks, you buy tailored suits. They give you the privilege of seeing the true nature of the men who run the city. You sit in the center controlling the flow of millions. All eyes are on your hands, you're useful and you belong. You think those are the same thing. Everything is great for the first 2 years. Saturday night tips buy you a penthouse. You pay off your father's debt. Move your mom to a private facility. You get a reserved parking spot. A respected fake name. Millionaires call you the golden boy. You think you hold power. But the room is real. What funds it isn't. You start noticing the pieces. Microscopic blood spatter on the Persian rug that the cleaners missed. A man walks in with 2 backward bent fingers taped together, tossing the keys to a Mercedes on the felt to settle a marker. Envelopes of cash handed to beat cops at the back door. You choose not to ask. Then Elias sits you down in the shadows behind the bar, calm, low voice. Talks about business insurance, laundering routes. Debts collected with claw hammers. The game will need you to deal blind sometimes, not often. Just when a whale needs to be drained before they leave. He asks if you're comfortable. The question is decorative. Elias runs the room like a corporation. Brotherhood and trust are the paint, revenue is the core. He tracks earnings by the night. Old dealers who just wanted to pitch clean cards get pushed out. Marcus, a 15-year vet, complains one night that the game is getting too dirty. Elias hears about it. Marcus is fired the next week. 2 weeks later, cops find Marcus in a trunk upstate with his throat cut. Elias never says his name again. Nobody complains again. You start sending Marcus's wife $1,000 a month anonymously. It's not pity. It's insurance. Because if it happens to you, you want to believe someone would do the same. You're probably wrong about that. If you're hooked on the brutal, unfiltered reality of the American underground, hit that subscribe button right now. Because the real nightmare is just beginning. You meet Sarah, cocktail waitress at a legal bar. Grew up rough, knows the smell of dirty money. For a while it works. Then the VAR-AM calls start, no voice, just breathing. Then the cash in the shoe closet she isn't allowed to ask about. One night you come home with a mist of blood on your white collar. She doesn't say anything. The silence between you develops a weight. There's one night you'll never forget. The annual whale game. $1 million minimum buy-in. The air is thick. No one talks about debts, territory, or murder. Just the click of plastic chips, the glide of cards on felt, and extreme focus. You deal perfectly. Your hands dance. For 3 hours, the underground is exactly what it promised to be. Powerful men fighting a war with money and nerve, no guns, no blood. When you step out for a smoke at Born AM, watching the sun rise over the New York skyline, it's the closest thing to peace you've felt since you walked in. You hold on to that memory the way a drowning man holds onto a piece of wood. Because everything after that night gets worse. The Russians open a game 3 blocks from your territory, poaching VIPs. Playing dirty. Elias handles it with secret meetings first. They last about a week. Then the Russian room gets firebombed. One of their dealers gets stabbed in a parking lot. You aren't pulling triggers. You aren't lighting matches. You're just dealing cards to rake the pot that pays the men who do. Your hands are technically clean. Your first dirty job comes on a Tuesday. Not dealing cards. A client owes the family 400 grand, hiding in an apartment in Queens. Elias sends guys to collect, and he wants you there to witness. You go with Vinny and 2 broad-shouldered guys. Door is locked. You pick it. You stand watch in the hallway. Inside there are no gunshots, just muffled screams, the sound of breaking bone. You take a duffel bag stuffed with Rolexes and jewelry from Vinny. You walk it to the car. Your cut that night is 10 grand. It takes 15 minutes to earn. You tell yourself you just stood by a door. You didn't take anything. You didn't hurt anyone. The rationalizing gets easier every time. And that's the part that should worry you. Sarah packs a suitcase on a Wednesday while you sleep, leaves a note on the kitchen counter. I love who you were. I can't watch who you're becoming, don't call. Your mother calls you 3 days after Sarah leaves. She asks you one question. Are you in trouble? You say no. She's quiet for a long time. Then she says your father wasn't a bad man. He just couldn't stop choosing the wrong things. I watched it happen, so slowly I didn't notice until he was gone. She hangs up. You stand in your empty penthouse holding the phone. It's the worst thing anyone's ever said to you. Not because it's cruel, because it's accurate. The feds start showing up in the margins. You do the math, 1 sleepless night. You've worked the room for 6 years. You've helped drain tens of millions from addicts. You're holding stolen property. Combined under Roe ICO, it's decades. Your entire adult life reduced to a sentencing chart. Your white vest isn't a uniform. It's a confession you wear in public. Every hand you deal is another frame of surveillance footage some prosecutor is collecting in a filing cabinet. You've built a life that looks like power, and every piece of it is evidence. The final game happens in November. The senator, the tech CIO Vinny, 2 arms dealers. The pot hits $3 million. The tension is a physical weight. The senator is shaking. The CIO is sweating. You hold the deck in your hand. You shuffle. And that is when you feel it. Your thumb, trained to read micrometers of paper, brushes against a microscopic scratch on the corner of the ace of spades. You glide your thumb again. The king of hearts has it too. The deck is marked. And 3 seconds, someone in this room is going to die. If you were standing in my shoes with $3 million on the table and the mob breathing down your neck, what would you do right now? Deal the cards or expose the cheat? Tell me in the comments below, because the choice I made tore this empire apart. In 3 seconds your brain runs every scenario. Elias brought the tray out. Elias wants to gut the senator. But Vinny is sitting right there. Vinny isn't stupid. Vinny is staring directly at your hands. If you deal the cards, you help Elias cheat the family. Vinny kills you. If you stop the game and expose Elias, the mob executes Elias, and then they execute you to tie up loose ends. You are a pawn wedged between 2 mad kings. Vinny slowly lifts his left hand. He taps his ring finger on the felt. Tap tap, it's not a tick, it's the signal. Vinny knows the deck is dirty. He's calling the men with guns from the kitchen. Deal the cards, kid. Vinny rasps. You look at Elias. The old man looks away. The mentor who taught you to survive just sold you out to be the meat shield. You put the deck down. You don't deal. You break rule number 2. You look the door guard dead in the eyes. He's reaching into his jacket. You flip the 400-pound mahogany table. $3 million in plastic chips erupts into the air like synthetic rain. Gunfire erupts, deafening sharp. The senator takes a bullet in the shoulder. The CIO screams. You don't stay to watch. You crawl across the floor over broken glass and blood. You squeeze through the ventilation grate you secretly unscrewed a month ago. The only exit with no cameras. You crawl through the rusted tin, leaving behind the screams, the gunfire, and the collapse of an empire. You drop into a filthy alley 2 blocks away. You run, sleeves torn, blood dripping from a deep cut on your palm. 2 federal agents find you at a Greyhound bus terminal the next morning. They know your real name. Roar ICO case in progress. They offer immunity for cooperation. Hand you a card. You have 1 week. You never call. 3 months later, reading a local paper in the Midwest, you see the news. The feds busted the ring, 18 indicted. Elias cooperated. The man who ran the underworld on Brotherhood sold the Brotherhood to save himself. The ecosystem killed itself before the cops could. You land in a small town in Montana, open a car wash, manual labor, loud but honest. You rent a room above a laundromat. The machines rumble at night, sounding exactly like someone shuffling cards. You eat alone, not because you want to, because you've forgotten how to connect with people outside a hierarchy of money and fear. A girl at the grocery store asks you to fix her wiper blade. You do. She brings you coffee the next day. You talk for 10 minutes. Normal, completely normal. She asks if you want to get dinner sometime. You say yes. At the restaurant, she asks what you did in New York. You say you were a cashier. She believes it. Over dinner, you notice yourself scanning the exits, counting the people at the bar, tracking the waiter's movement patterns. Old software running on new hardware. 3rd date, she sees the scar on your palm from the broken glass. Asks about it, you lie, you tell her it was a car repair accident. She believes it. And in that moment, you realize that every relationship you'll ever have from now on starts with a lie. And it has a built-in ceiling. You can get close, just not all the way. You are forever a ghost. Some nights you hear someone drop coins on the sidewalk. You know that sound, you always could. It sounds exactly like the clink of poker chips. Something tightens in your chest. You stand in the doorway of the car wash, hands smelling of soap and motor oil, and listen until the sound fades. The underground doesn't run on crime. Crime is just the business model. The underground runs on loneliness and greed. Every guy who walks in is a man eating alone until someone says, "Welcome to the VIP table." That's the product, power, belonging. The price is everything else. There's no retirement, no farewell dinner. Just a car wash in a town nobody visits, and a sound in your head that used to mean life, now reminding you that you died a long time ago. The underground never truly lets you go. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, hit subscribe and drop a like. And if you've ever realized you were the prey in a room full of predators, share your story in the comments. See you in the next shadow.